Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a book review on The Mad Women's Ball by Victoria Moz. In The Mad Women's Ball by Victoria Moz, upper-class young woman Eugenie is sent to the infamous Salpeteri Asylum after she claims she can see spirits. Genevieve, a nurse at the asylum, has shunned religion after the death of her sister and puts all her faith in science. But everything begins to change after Genevieve meets Eugenie, and Genevieve starts to realize the problematic nature of the hospital for the insane. The Mad Women's Ball approaches, an event held once a year at the asylum, where the upper classes and the patients mingle for one night. Genevieve has one chance to save Eugenie from living the rest of her life in a place that seeks to destroy her. Before I do start this review, I do want to quickly mention that there was a fantastic movie adaptation of this book that was released back in 2021. I actually watched that adaptation first prior to even getting into this book. I'm just now getting to the book. And I really enjoyed that adaptation. It was all in French, a very wonderful production. And yeah, while reading this book, because a lot of the movie was kind of coming back to me, and I think the movie was actually a pretty fantastic adaptation for the most part. This book is very tiny, so just about every single element of this book got into that movie, so kind of making it one of those rare, really good adaptations, you know? So yeah, if you've read this book, or maybe you have an interest in the story at least, you might want to go check out the movie adaptation. Like I said, it came out back in 2021 and it's an all French production, and yeah, I definitely give it a thumbs up. So what you need to know about this book is set in Paris in 1885, and the primary location and setting of this book is the infamous, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation here, the infamous Salpeteri Asylum for the Insane, which primarily only housed women at that time period, to my understanding. Yeah, I looked up a pronunciation guide how to pronounce the Salpeteri Asylum, and it kind of just went in and out one ear, and I'm kind of losing the pronunciation in my head as I'm kind of doing this review. I kept repeating it to myself and I lost the pronunciation. So yeah, I'm probably going to just refer to it as the asylum, you know. So yeah, like I said, this book is Paris, 1885. We follow two very different women. The first woman is Eugenie. She's an upper class young woman, and she can talk to dead people, you guys, like Sixth Sense style. Spirits come to her. She can kind of communicate with them to a degree, or rather they communicate more with her. So her family finds out that she can talk to spirits, and this, like I said, this is 1885. This is a no-no. You are not supposed to be talking to spirits because it makes you weird. So her father is like, you are no daughter of mine. You have put this family to shame. For her father, it's all about the reputation of the family. You know, rather than caring for his daughter who might possibly be mentally ill, the father instead shuns her and pushes her off to the insane asylum to get rid of her, to make her not a shameful problem to the family anymore. So there's Eugenie's story, how she gets to the asylum, and then our other main character is a woman named Genevieve, she's a bit older than Eugenie. I'm not quite sure how much older, because I kind of got the idea she was either maybe in her 30s or 40s, but Genevieve is a nurse at the asylum, and she definitely, from the get-go, you get the idea and impression that she's just very idealistic about what the asylum does and how it serves the insane and whatnot, and she really worships Dr. Charcot, who is kind of the head of the asylum during this time period. She practically worships and idealizes this man. So a lot of this novel is also Genevieve's story and character arc, how she kind of starts to become disillusioned with the asylum and stops hero worshipping Dr. Charcot, you know, especially once she does meet Eugenie. Once these two women connect and meet, Eugenie quickly displays the fact that, hey, I'm not making this up. I can really speak to dead people because your sister is right over here in the corner. I can see her, and I know how she died, and she's speaking to me, and she's telling me things that no one else would know. And Genevieve quickly realizes, hey, Eugenie is not lying. She's saying things to me that no one else could possibly know, so she must really speak to dead people. She's not really insane, you know? So that's what the bulk of the story is about. And the big climax of this book, because this book is called The Mad Women's Ball, this whole book is building up to the Mad Women's Ball, which is supposed to be this event that takes place once a year where the upper classes and the insane women of the asylum, they mingle together for one night only. And yeah, the women at the asylum really look forward to this. It gets them out of the mundane life that they live, and they get to have a little bit of fun and excitement, you know. But little do they understand that the ball is really just this place for the upper classes to come and just gawk and make fun of, and kind of go back to their peers later and be like, hey, I got to hang out with an insane woman, you know. It's cruel, you know, when you think about it. It's very, very much cruel and terrible what the upper classes are doing at this party, you know. That the women themselves are very excited for the party, but it's not really, you know. It's meant to be this thing for the upper classes to gawk and stare and make fun of them. So what this book is exploring at the end of the day is definitely just women's issues during this time period, because I think just from the synopsis alone and how I was describing the female characters in this novel, I think you can definitely get kind of what the point of this book is about, because it's diving into this era where women, if you were seen as inconvenient, a male figure in your life could just ship you off very easily to an insane asylum to get rid of you because you were an embarrassment. And especially for the upper classes, it was all about the reputation of the family. So this book is definitely exploring how women were treated during this time period, that if you were odd and peculiar, and if you didn't conform to what society told you to be, like how a woman should be during this time period, yeah, you were just taken right off to an insane asylum to hopefully maybe get cured, to be a better woman, and to come back and get married and produce children, because that's all women were seen as during this time period, was just to produce, you know, and to get married and just be a stationary figure off to the side. So yeah, this novel is definitely exploring that. It's exploring women who were deemed inconvenient. That could be like in Eugenie's case, she says she sees dead people, you know, and her father's like, no. It could also be a place, women, if they committed adultery, you know, the husband could be like, hey, you committed adultery, I'm taking you off to the insane asylum, but yeah, it's okay for him to commit adultery, you know. And then yeah, even murderesses during this time period, a lot of murderesses were kind of taken off to an asylum rather than a prison, you know, which kind of is, there's like sexism there, you know, like lady murderers, just because, you know, during this time period there wasn't a hell of a lot of lady murderers when you think about it. So the rare lady murderers that were running around, that was seen as very weird and strange, so they were sent to an asylum rather than a prison, you know? So yeah, a lot of sexism just there alone with how women murderers were treated against male murderers, you know? It's like a murderer is a murderer. So yeah, this is definitely a novel exploring how both Eugenie and Genevieve, how they are, whether they're physically abused, mentally abused, you know, how they are abused by the men in their lives, and that betrayal, you know, especially like Eugenie, a father who should love her, but instead of helping her and understanding her, he ships her off to an asylum, you know. And then, yeah, the same with Genevieve, who is a nurse, and like I mentioned, she hero worships Dr. Sharkot, the head of the asylum. She hero worships this guy, but if she tries to voice an opinion or anything, he just totally turns against her and is like, no, you're stupid, you don't understand how medicine and science works, you know? So, yeah, these women are all being horribly abused, you know, verbally, mentally, physically, in some ways. And yeah, the female patients themselves, you know, they're treated horribly. So yeah, I mean, it's not only a book about women's issues during this time, but also just how the mentally ill were treated, and the mentally ill were not treated very well at all. There's like no compassion, there's no understanding. And yet just horrible experiments being placed upon these women with the thing of, oh, this is science, this is going to cure you, and if anything, it's not working. Obviously, it's just making them more insane. So Victoria Moss, I just really appreciated her writing in general in this novel. She goes into this narrative as she's describing the women in the asylum. She treats them with compassion and understanding. She doesn't condemn them. She gives all these women a history and a backstory to explain how they got to this asylum, because some of them are not mentally insane at all. You know, a lot of them are just because a father or a husband, a brother, just wanted to get rid of them because they were inconvenient. So I loved kind of the narrative of that Victoria Moss was going with here, and how she was treating the female characters. And yeah, this book, it's very small and tiny. It's a very quick, easy read. It doesn't really take much out of you. And this book was originally written in French and translated into English, and I do think this English translation is pretty well. There was never a moment where I thought something was kind of weirdly translated, you know, because with some translated books, a sentence might kind of be weird, or a word choice might be kind of weird, and I never got distracted with something that felt odd or peculiar with the narrative. So I think this was a really fantastic translation, and it got what Victoria Moss was going for, you know, kind of the heart and the core and the substance. And I think this is going to be a book that you really like the two main leading ladies, you know, both Eugenie and Genevieve. They're strong and independent and very highly intelligent. Yeah, they definitely have their differences, you know, because Eugenie obviously being an upper class woman, and Genevieve being more of a middle class woman. And yeah, Genevieve has a really interesting arc as well, because in some ways I almost think this is more Genevieve's book than Eugenie's book, because Genevieve, her sister, has recently died not too long ago, and she's kind of turned against religion, and she's very pragmatic and straightforward. And yeah, it's kind of Eugenie kind of entering her life that really turns her around and has her questioning things and how she's lived her life, and that she's idealized the asylum, she's idealized Dr. Sharkot, you know. So these two women really kind of balance each other out, and they learn things from each other, and it's definitely like a female friendship story, you know, women fighting together. So you guys, I would definitely recommend The Mad Women's Ball if you haven't gotten around to it at all. It's a fantastic piece of historical fiction, I think, focusing on the very infamous Salvatore, like I said, I think I'm butchering the pronunciation, the Salvatore asylum for the insane. Really kind of getting into that era. It can be really raw and gritty in places, and disturbing and uncomfortable. I think you're supposed to be disturbed with how the women are being treated, how the mentally insane are being treated. You know, it's terrible. You know, it's absolutely terrible. And I think Victoria Moss really kind of gets that point across, and that, yeah, we're supposed to have a lot of sympathy and understanding for all these characters, you know. So yeah, a wonderful piece of historical fiction, very quick and easy to read. I definitely recommend it. So yeah, you guys, have you read The Mad Women's Ball? Maybe you saw the movie a couple years ago, let me know. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.